Hello, everybody, and welcome to the next installment of Awesome Nutrition. Today, we're going to talk about the most important factor related to fat loss. Now, the reason we're going to talk about this, on your original forms that you filled out, I asked you to tick off a few boxes of some nutrition information that you might want to find out about. And this subject was the most popular. So, this is why we're going to look at this today. Not all of you are on the challenge for fat loss necessarily. However, as we've noticed so far, some of you are losing weight who are following the guidelines precisely. So, we're going to look at the most important factor related to fat loss. Now, I know that you're probably going to be disappointed with the answer straight away, but obviously, it's not going to be going out on the weekends and having Negronis and nice, yummy, indulgent food. I wish it was, because that's something that I could easily get into. However, the most important factor related to fat loss is adherence. Okay, so adherence is here, guys. If you adhere to this little pyramid here, it's quite a big pyramid. Fat loss will occur if you adhere to this pyramid. From most important to least important at the top. Basically, your base is energy balance. So, in order to create fat loss, we need to create a calorie deficit. So, the energy we're taking in needs to be less than what we're burning throughout the day and over a period of weeks and months in order for fat loss to occur. So that's the most important here. So if we're not in a calorie deficit, if we're not in a positive energy balance, then we won't lose weight. We won't lose fat at all. The next most important one is protein. Now, we focused a lot on protein since we started the 6-week challenge, and it's really important because when we are losing fat, when we're losing weight, we want to preserve as much muscle mass as we can so we don't burn through our muscle tissue. So to make sure we have a healthy amount of protein in our diet and quite a high amount of protein when we're on a weight loss diet is really important. Next up are these two here. So your next two macronutrients, carbohydrates and fat. When we're looking at losing fat, we want to burn as much fat as fuel rather than carbohydrates. So sometimes a lower carbohydrate, not necessarily a low carbohydrate or not necessarily a zero carbohydrate diet, does help. A lower carbohydrate diet does help because the lower the carbohydrates that we intake, the more fat we will burn for fuel. Now, obviously, it depends on how active we are, on how many carbohydrates we should be taking in, but carbohydrates are the next on the list for fat loss to occur. Next is fat intake. So if we're eating less carbohydrates, we'll probably eat more fat. Just a note on this, guys, when we carbohydrates don't turn into fat. Yeah, carbohydrates get stored and converted and stored as energy in the muscles, right? So when we take in carbohydrates, they're stored in the blood, in the liver, and also in the muscle tissue. When we consume carbohydrates, carbohydrates don't turn into fat. What happens when we have carbohydrates in the diet and they're not used up? The carbohydrates are stored as energy, and then the fat in our diet, so our daily diet, the fat from our daily diet also gets stored if there's a lot of carbohydrate. So it's not that carbohydrates convert to fat. The dietary fat, so from things like milk and salmon and olive oil and yogurts and things like that, that all gets stored as fat if there's too much carbohydrate in the diet. But more on that later. Next, guys, is sleep. So we need to have an important and adequate amount of sleep in order to get lots of rest and recovery. Next one is fiber. So fiber will fill us up. It'll give us a good feeling gut, and it will, as I say, it'll fill us up. It'll help us feel fuller for longer, and we're less likely to have cravings. We're less likely to snack and things like that. And then the last important, guys, and it's really not important at all, is meal timing. So the time that you eat really doesn't have any impact at all on your fat loss. So if you want to eat at midnight, you should eat at midnight. If you want to eat at 7 o'clock in the morning, you eat 7 o'clock in the morning. It doesn't matter. You can eat carbohydrates after 6 p.m. That doesn't, meal timing does not have any effect at all. Okay. I'm going to go through a few of these as we move through, guys, as well. So I'll give you a little bit more information on that. But yeah, basically, the most important factor related to fat loss is adherence to all of these little things in this little pyramid here. Next one, guys. So what do we mean by adherence? So it says here, studies showed that significant weight loss and fat loss was observed with any low carbohydrate or low fat diet, and neither showed greater weight loss results and weight loss differences between such diets. And weight loss, neither showed greater weight loss results. Neither showed greater weight loss results, okay? And weight loss differences between such diets were actually quite small. So, in conclusion, this supports the practice of recommending any diet that a patient will adhere to in order to lose weight. So, forget about low carbohydrate diets, forget about low fat diets. As long as we're in an energy deficit, we'll lose weight. And whether you want to choose a low carb or a low fat diet, it actually doesn't really matter. Despite what I just said about about carbohydrates in the system and then fat being stored, if we're in an energy deficit and we're burning more than what we're actually taking in, fat loss will occur. And the principle of fat loss, as I said, is an energy deficit. The method used to create an energy deficit can be determined by a number of factors, but ultimately finding a diet, a strategy, and an intervention that an individual is most likely to adhere to should be a priority. And this method may also change and evolve over time. So basically, yeah, what it's saying is it's really individual to each and every person. Whatever works for somebody might not necessarily work for somebody else. So in the beginning, you might look at calorie counting. So some people might like the numbers and they might want to calorie count and make sure that they're in a calorie deficit that way. Other people might just benefit from adding more fruits and vegetables into their diet. The fact that they might not eat a lot of fruits and vegetables means that they're not getting a lot of fiber, they're not feeling very full, and they are craving and snacking on foods a lot because they're not satisfied, they're not satiated. Equally, increasing somebody's protein very simply can also create an energy deficit because they are satisfied, they're satiated with their food, and there's no need for them to snack or look for more food because they're actually satisfied. So there's lots of methods that you can use, and also it might change over time. So in the beginning, you might increase somebody's protein, they might start to lose weight, and then that might plateau, and then you're like, right, okay, well, let's look at something else. Let's keep the protein the way it is. Let's now look at the fact that you've lost a little bit of weight and you've plateaued. Let's maybe have a look now at your energy expenditure. Maybe you're not burning as much as what we thought in the beginning. So these methods change and evolve over time also. And working with a nutritionist, working with a coach, over time you can work together and work those out between yourselves. So looking at energy balance, guys. So Fat Loss 101, energy balance, as we've said before, is energy input versus energy output. So neutral energy balance is weight maintenance. So you maintain your weight if your energy in that you're eating and consuming food and drink is equal to the energy that you're burning, you will maintain your current weight. So that can be just right now. It can be after a period of weight loss. You would recalculate kind of how much energy you're taking in, how much energy you're taking out, so that you then stop losing weight and you then maintain that current weight. It also says here, guys, that bear in mind that both energy intake and energy expenditure are dynamic. This means that both systems are working at the same time. Hence, it takes time for fat loss to show on a scale or in our body measurements. So when we start to lose weight in the beginning, we may not see any results for maybe a week or two, sometimes 3 weeks. And that's because, as I said, it says here, that they're dynamic systems. So the fact that you've eaten less one day doesn't necessarily show up the day after. You've got your burning energy. There's food in your gut. It's being digested. Over time, your body composition will change, but it's not on a day-to-day basis. You'll fluctuate. Some days your weight will go up. Some days your weight will go down. Overall, your fat loss should be occurring if you're in a correct energy deficit and you're getting enough protein. But they are dynamic. This is why we shouldn't really worry too much if we are on a weight loss diet and suddenly our weight spikes up. It just does, and there's no real explanation for it. It's just that, as I say, these systems are quite dynamic and they take a little while for your body to adjust, and that's day to day, week to week, and month to month. Positive energy balance, guys. So that is weight loss. So we're obviously positive is if people are wanting to lose weight. So basically, the energy that we're taking in is the energy that we're burning is more than, so it's heavier here than the energy that we're taking in. So if we're burning more than what we're taking in, it will equal weight loss. So this guy's got a little belly. This guy doesn't have too much of a belly. He's lost weight by burning more than what he's taking in. And then a negative energy balance, so that equals weight gain. So the energy in is greater and heavier than the energy we're actually burning. Over time, this guy here will possibly put on a little bit of weight around his tummy and around actually anywhere. You can actually spot reduce around your tummy, but a negative energy balance would equal weight gain. So as we said before, guys, the order of importance for fat loss from our pyramid earlier, the first one is energy balance. So we need to create an energy deficit. So we need to burn more energy than what we're taking in, equaling a positive energy balance, which equals weight loss. That's the most important thing. This is the most important thing here. No matter what you're eating, no matter how you're eating, no matter when you're eating, if you're not in a calorie deficit, you will not lose fat, you will not lose weight. Next one, as we said, is protein. Protein is really important for muscle spurring and holding on and muscle retention, holding on to as much muscle mass as we can as we lose weight and as we lose fat. The next important is carbohydrates. A lower carbohydrate diet will probably help because then the dietary fat will be used more as fuel and not stored as much if we are burning through the carbohydrates in our system and they are not being stored as much. Next one is healthy fats, as we just said. The more fat that we're taking in, the less carbs we're taking in, the more fat we will burn as a fuel source, and your dietary fat will be used as energy, and once that is used up, then your body fat will also be used as energy, and that is how we burn fat. And the next most important one, guys, is sleep. As I say, we're going to come into these a little bit later on. So adherence. The following reasons may reduce adherence to fat loss. Now, these two that are starred here, guys, I'm going to talk about in a second. But yeah, basically, if you're attending a lot of social events, it says here with limited support. So with limited support, meaning support from a coach or a nutritionist, going out to a lot of social events, obviously there's normally a lot of food variety. There's a lot of food available when you go out and you're doing a social event, either if it's a party or if you're out for dinner, or you're meeting up with friends and things like that. There's normally a little bit more indulgent food and possibly more alcohol. So that can be a reason why adherence may reduce during a fat loss diet. Also, an increase in stress will reduce adherence as well, simply because stress itself doesn't cause weight gain. It's basically the outcomes of stress. So when we're stressed, we tend to kind of lean towards more indulgences to try and make ourselves feel better. It's like things like emotional eating and things like that come into it when we're stressed. And sometimes when we're stressed, we're not always as prepared as normal either. So we get home, we're stressed at work, we get home, we haven't got anything prepared for dinner. We might end up ordering food, getting a takeaway, just running out and grabbing something, just because our stress levels are a little bit high. It does say here, guys, you can alter an individual's compliance to a weight loss diet through small habit changes. So the reason why we're looking on the 6-week challenge is about creating new habits in order for you basically a better lifestyle, really. It's not always about fat loss, but changing small habits, increasing vegetable intake, increasing fruit intake, increasing protein intake can all help when we're on a weight loss diet. So looking at the next two guys, having high food variety and lack of sleep, let's talk about those. Food variety increases energy intake. So there's a couple of studies here, guys. Brondel, Yeomans, and Roma. They did studies on food variety and discovered that it increases energy intake. Basically because food variety causes an appetite stimulating mechanism due to the renewed palatability and interest in eating food. This can be during one meal or throughout the day or throughout the week. So if we're at a buffet like this guy, there's a lot of food variety, and we tend to eat more when there's a lot of variety of food available. As I say, a buffet. Now, I love a good buffet menu. I'm like back and forth, like I don't know what. And of course, you will eat way more because there's so much choice available to you. So reducing food variety can actually help adherence to a weight loss diet. And it's basically, it says here, food variety may delay satiation in relation to the to a decrease in sensory specific satiety. So if you have a lot of different food on a plate or in one meal, you won't get kind of, for want of a better word, bored of eating the same thing. You'd be like, oh, well, I'll have a bit of this, and oh, I'll have a bit of that, and oh, go on, I'll have a bit of that as well. If the meal is quite basic and contains a lot of the same food, you'll probably eat that. There's nothing left to eat. There's no more variety of food, so you would eat less. And as I say, basically, buffet food is one of the best and worst for increasing energy intake. So it's great for the eyes, but bad for the tummy. The importance of quality sleep, guys. So it says here, reduction in fat loss, increased hunger signals, impaired glucose tolerance may result from having insufficient sleep in a weight loss client. Basically, insufficient sleep during weight loss can reduce the amount of weight lost, specifically fat loss, and really because there's an increase in hunger through hormonal disruption if we don't get enough sleep. So when we don't get enough sleep, our hormones are disturbed, our leptin reduces, and leptin is a hormone, it's our satiety hormone, so it makes us feel full. So when we eat something, leptin is released, and over time, it allows us to feel full. And without a lot of sleep, your ghrelin increases, and ghrelin is your hunger hormone. So if we don't get enough sleep and your hormones are disrupted, these aren't working too well. So when you're eating, you're not feeling satisfied, and your ghrelin increases. So you're actually hungry a little bit more. This is quite evident in, it says here, shift workers. They're more prone to insufficient sleep due to irregular working hours. So people like, for example, like nurses, people like cabin crew as well, who are flying overnight and things like that. People who work odd hours. They sometimes find it more difficult to adhere to weight loss principles simply because of this hormonal disruption. So looking at what we can actually do, so factors we can manipulate for fat loss, we can look at behavioral factors, so increase developing better habits. We can look at satiety, your appetite and feelings of fullness, so basically increasing your fruit and vegetable intake, increasing your protein intake will satisfy you. Your satiety levels will be higher. Your energy levels and feelings of well-being, minimizing slumps and cravings. So basically, your energy levels, basically getting you out, getting you moving a little bit more, getting rid of these kind of slumps and cravings in the middle of the day. Again, satiety comes into this as well. Your energy levels will be better if you are satisfied and you're full of fruits and vegetables and nutritious food. Adherence and compliance. So if a weight loss plan needs really to be motivating, and it needs to be flexible as well, so that people are more likely to adhere and they'll be more compliant if it's not too strict. and as I say, if it's motivating, and motivating can come it's on the next slide on a few slides time, but basically about doing challenges like we're doing at the moment, a little bit of competition here and there, and making it fun and enjoyable. And muscle retention and metabolic rate leads to increased fat loss. So the more muscle we retain, the more muscle we build, the higher our metabolic rate, and the higher increase in fat loss. Factors that are important for adherence. So as we said before, guys, results. So getting results is a really important factor. If we get results, we're more likely to adhere. If we get good results right at the beginning of a challenge or a weight loss diet, that's a great it's a great way of getting people to adhere. That can be, you can do quite rapid fat loss plans, and they're actually quite good because they create a result in a really short period of time. People notice these results and they're more likely to adhere. It needs to be easy to stick to. It needs to be enjoyable and fun, like I say, as we're doing right now, guys, on this challenge. You've also got social support. So you guys on the challenge so far have been really supportive of everybody. Everybody's really chipping in and liking everyone's posts and things like that. So that's really good social support. It also needs to fit in with your lifestyle. So as again with this challenge, you've got the autonomy to just fit it in. Everyone can eat more vegetables, everyone can eat more fruit, everyone can try and eat more protein, everyone can get out and do 10,000 steps a day. It just needs to fit in with your lifestyle. Some might do it later in the day, some might do it early in the morning. It just whenever it fits with you. We need to minimize hunger and minimize discomfort. So again, increasing protein, increasing fruits and vegetables will minimize hunger and it will minimize discomfort. It needs to be motivational. So I'm doing my best to motivate you with little spot prizes and things like that. That's my little input there. And personal food preferences. You'll notice, guys, that I haven't given you any food plans at all. Food plans don't really work for adherence to fat loss. Everyone has personal food preferences. Everyone has personal food dislikes. So people don't like certain foods. People don't eat certain foods. They might be vegetarian. They might be vegan and things like that. So it needs to work around your personal food preferences. It also needs to be easy to understand. All we've asked you to do on this 6-week challenge is move more, eat more fruits and vegetables, and eat more protein. It's very easy to understand. It's very clear, and clear goals as well. So that's what we're aiming for each day. Easy to understand, and it's very clear. And again, flexible. This comes into, again, personal food preferences. It's flexible, guys. You can go out and do your steps whenever you want to. You can eat your meals whenever you want to. And there is a specific time frame. So we're doing this for 6 weeks. Adherence versus compliance. So this is a shared responsibility between client and practitioner. So in order for somebody to be compliant and adhere, then you need to work together with your coach or with your nutritionist. And there's different ways of both practitioner and client and patient need to be a little bit flexible on how they do things. It's really important to keep in touch with your coach and with your nutritionist in order to do so. If something's not working, you can have a discussion. You can problem solve. You can troubleshoot and see how you can get back on track. And it says here, guys, in the case of a non-achievement, so if somebody's trying to lose weight and they're not achieving this weight loss, it's important to assess the patient's motivation to adhere. So they might not be motivated to continue with this weight loss plan. And also ask why, ask if they are getting the right advice from the right person. So somebody who's wanting to lose weight and just be in better health might be better talking to a nutritionist rather than talking to a bodybuilder who's used to prepping people for competitions on a stage. So whatever your goal is, whether it is fat loss, muscle gain, you need to speak to the right person. And this guy here probably wouldn't give you too much health advice on eating more fruits and vegetables and things like that, because these guys' diets are actually very they can contain a lot of junk food because they need to build a lot of muscle, and they need to be in quite a high calorie surplus, whereas if we're looking for health, we're looking at weight maintenance and usually weight loss. So speaking to the right person is really important. Identifying why somebody isn't adhering. So there's a couple of factors here, guys. It might be psychological and it might be physiological. So just going through a couple of these. Psychological, counseling and motivational interviewing. So yeah, if it's psychological, it's really important for me as a practitioner to chat to clients and make sure that they are getting the right advice, they're getting the right kind of help. People have all types of issues, neuroses, psychological issues. Not that we're crazy, but just around, confusion around food, confusion around diets and things like that. So it's really good. Motivational interviewing is basically letting people talk about what they want to achieve, and then allowing that person to come up with their own answers and basically their own plan around how they're going to actually achieve that, to give them the autonomy and give them the feeling, which is actually very true, of taking control of what they're doing, taking control of the in this case, weight loss. We need to look at methods to manage cravings. This is a slight behavior change, but it also comes into, again, building better habits, like increasing fruits and vegetables and protein. I know I keep repeating myself, but it's really, really important. So, but these are behavior changes. So some people might not be very used to eating a lot of fruits and vegetables and need time for those habits to form and that behavior to change. Methods, we need to look at methods to reduce feelings of deprivation. That's going to come in a moment, guys. We're going to talk about hedonic hunger. That's on the next slide here. And dietary flexibility, is it related to social or environmental factors? So again, looking back at what we said before about social events, dietary flexibility, allowing people to go out and have a really good time, not worry too much about dieting when they're with friends and family and at social events, but then when they can control it during the week, for a few days to get back on track, that's really important to have that flexibility. We need to also look at methods to increase flexibility and dieting, the flexibility of dieting and autonomy. So again, looking at, if somebody's out, methods to increase flexibility. So if somebody is going out at the weekend, if they've got a wedding or if they've got a party to go to, then methods to increase that flexibility is basically, right, okay, you're going to go out at the weekend, go for it. Go for your life. Go and have a really good time. Don't worry about the diet this weekend. Possibly be a little bit mindful. Don't go crazy. But then a method we could use is basically watching what they eat throughout the week. Really, really simple. We need to keep it simple and easy to understand. So methods to increase flexibility. You would eat a balanced diet through the week, possibly a lower calorie diet through the week, so that then you've saved a few calories for the weekend so that you can go and indulge, have a good time at the wedding or the party that you're going to, and not worry too much about ruining the diet and the progress that you've already made. And then again, guys, it says here, introduce social support. So weight loss groups, which is exactly what we're doing right now. We're not a weight loss group, we're a challenge group, but this is how you would do it. So social support. So that can come from a nutrition coach, it can come from a weight loss group, it can also come from also your friends and family if you're telling them that you're doing something and they get involved with that as well. It also, guys, it might be physiological. Sorry to blab on about this on this slide. It's a little bit boring for you, but we need to look at methods to reduce hunger and appetite. So again, physiological. So are you getting enough fruit and fiber? Are you getting enough protein? Again, repeating myself, but it's as I say, it's one of the most important things. And there are methods to do that, to increase those macronutrients, to reduce hunger and appetite. Again, as we spoke about before, guys, reducing food variety. So the more variety of food you have, either in one meal or throughout the week, is probably going to cause you to eat a little bit more and not adhere too much to a weight loss plan. Also, methods to manage stress, so things like exercise and meditations and things like that. I'm not a very meditative person, but I know that it does help some people. So whatever methods we can use, again, interviewing, motivational interviewing with a client or a patient, we can come up with these many methods on how best they can manage stress, so that then they are able to plan a little bit more. They're less stressed when they come home. They're less likely to reach for indulgent foods and things like that. And as we just discussed, guys, timing and type of exercise. So exercise is really important in a weight loss plan. Nutrition is the most important, but obviously exercise is a really good way of managing stress, and it's a really good way of burning extra calories. As I said, guys, hedonic hunger we're going to talk about here. So this is basically cravings and feelings of deprivation, and it also comes into emotional eating as well. It's basically, hedonic hunger is basically eating for pleasure rather than somatic reasons. So somatic, like actually our bodies need to eat. It's more for eating for pleasure. And this hedonic hunger is correlated with perceived deprivation, not with actual calorie intake. So that's basically what that says. So you're feeling deprived, but you're not actually deprived of food. Your body's not wanting or needing food. You're basically thinking that you're deprived of food because you're not eating what you would normally eat. So it says here, people experiencing hedonic hunger are actually experiencing relative deprivation, which is relative to what they would like to have eaten, rather than absolute deprivation, which is relative to the actual energy needs and energy balance of the body. So yeah, to repeat myself, it's in people's head about what they want to eat, and they feel deprived. It's not an actual deprivation. It's not like you're not starving of calories. Looking at why diets fail. So it says here, when diets fail, it's basically when it fails to put someone in an energy deficit, and 4 reasons why this might happen. So as we said before, guys, the most important thing for fat loss is to be in an energy deficit. So we need to be burning more energy than what we're actually taking in. And 4 reasons why this might happen is basically that the diet doesn't even attempt to create a deficit, and it focuses on methods rather than principles. So you're looking at like pseudo-scientific bases. So basically fad diets, yeah, look at methods rather than principles. So looking at, you've got diets that look at toxins in your fat cells. Oh, I've got toxins in my fat cells, that's why I'm not losing weight. No, you're not losing weight because you're not in a calorie deficit. Your gut bacteria is all messed up. Now this is called SIBO, and it is actually a real thing, but it doesn't stop you from losing weight. You can clear it up with good nutrition, but it doesn't actually stop you from losing weight. Again, your cortisol levels, so again, stress, as we talked about before, that doesn't actually stop you from losing weight. It can stop you from adhering to a weight loss diet, but cortisol levels that are high doesn't actually increase your weight, and it doesn't stop you from losing weight either. Again, it's just basically fad diets that are sold to people, that they don't attempt to create a deficit. They just focus on methods of weight loss rather than the actual principles. DNA diets and metabolic reset diets and stuff like that, guys. I think there's something called Juniper out there at the moment, which is absolute rubbish. There's a guy in a doctor's suit on the advert, and it's talking about your DNA and resetting your metabolism. You can't reset your metabolism. Your metabolism is, as we said earlier, it's dynamic. It changes all the time. As you lose weight, your metabolism decreases as we lose weight, but that's basically because we become a smaller person. There's less of us, so our metabolism slows down a little bit. It doesn't reset. It doesn't break down. It just evolves as we become a smaller person, and it will also increase as we become a larger person. Number 2, guys, the assumed energy expenditure is wrong. So we did on our initial forms, I asked you how active you are and how much energy you spend. That was quite interesting. Some of you I know personally. Well, actually, I know you all personally. But some of you I know kind of on a day-to-day basis, so I know what your lifestyle is like. And it was interesting that some people put themselves in a quite an active category. So you would possibly be overestimating your energy expenditure. So you're thinking that you're burning more energy than what you actually are, and then your calorie intake is then reflected, and it's actually wrong. So the energy balance would be upset, and you'd either be in probably weight maintenance and sometimes in a calorie surplus. So you would actually increase weight slowly over time if your energy expenditure is calculated wrong. And then number 3, guys, it says the individual does or does not or cannot adhere to it. And as I said before, guys, in this case, both patient and practitioner need to be willing to adapt their method. So if it's not working and you can't adhere to it, if it's too strict, if it's too focused on numbers, if it's calorie counting and you can't use a certain app, or it's really stressful, you're not going to adhere to it. So as we said, to conclude this, adherence is the most important factor for weight loss. And if you're following something that you cannot adhere to, then both yourself and your coach, your nutritionist, need to be willing to adapt your methods in order to create something that you can actually adhere to. And that's it, guys. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. Sorry if it rambled on a little bit. I might need to make these slides a little bit more active because sometimes it's really boring just watching the screen and listening to my voice. But I hope that answered some of your questions. I hope you got some really good information from it. Thank you for listening, and also please ask any questions if you would like to know more. There's plenty more information, guys. That was just the basics right there. It's more than what most people need, but if you do want to know more, please ask me. And I'll see you very soon. Thanks for listening. Bye.